Ready for Gamecock baseball at 3:45 pregame, 4 o'clock first pitch. South Carolina, Gardner-Webb, Gamecocks coming off a solid W over Wofford last night. 8-2 was the final. Home runs, Talmadge LeCroy, and also Mr. Scobie go yard. And, you know, it's one of those things that with Scobie, last year we saw glimpses, hit about, 257 occasional power. And a lot of folks said, well, the sky could be the limit for Scobie. And we have seen that. And early on, we've seen that early on, where Scobie has shown some power, a couple of home runs early, hitting it really well. Batting average is nice to start the season. And again, it's early. It's only what, a 5-game sample size, so it's you can't go wow like 100%. But what Scobie has done so far, you're like, wow, if this guy could be a true producer in the top of the order, that will be phenomenal. So we'll see what happens. KJ Scobie today will be hitting number 2 in the lineup, and we'll give you the lineup really quick. Tyler Bach leading off, KJ Scobie in the 2-hole, Bach playing center, Scobie at short. Reese Moore will DH. Reese Moore's off to a good start. Reese Moore hitting in the 3-hole DH. Talmadge LeCroy catching again today. There was talk that maybe LeCroy might get a day off from behind the plate. But Talmadge LeCroy, who's another guy off to a nice solid start, hitting cleanup and doing the catching. And usually, a lot of times, day game after a night game or a night-ish game, you would give your catcher a day off, but Pulmonary not choosing to do that. Ethan Lozama in left field batting 5th. In right field, Aaron Jameson hitting in the 6-hole. Patrick Evans batting 7th. And let me see this because I'm trying to look at it on my phone. Evans is playing second base today. Will Craddock at first base, batting 8th. Eric Parker hitting 9th at third base. Bradley Hughes, or Hodges, I should say, not Hughes. Bradley Hodges taking the ball for South Carolina. No Logan Sutter again in the lineup. Let me say this really quick. I get Logan Sutter has struggled. Totally understand. 0 for the year so far over the weekend. Really had his issues really ever since fall camp. But this is a guy that hit. I know the Big Ten's different from the SEC. I get it. Sutter has hit and hit at a high level. It's a reason that Pulmonary and his coaching staff brought Sutter in from the transfer portal. 3 games in the regular season is not a sample size. I understand also fall camp not hitting, in preseason not hitting. I understand there has been offensively, Sutter has really had he's been tied in knots. But you also can't forget this guy. I mean, he tore it up last year at Purdue. And while I understand you need production all through your lineup, I also understand he's a guy that if you don't pull the trigger too quick or don't be too impatient and let him, get himself back together to be the hitter he was last year, I also think that's a good idea. Now, again, if you're 0 for 70, that's a problem. But 0 for 6, I don't know. I know there's a lot of pressure on this baseball program. I get it. There's a lot of pressure on Pulmonary. As much pressure as you're going to have when you really are a Hall of Fame coach already and you've won a national championship and you've been to Omaha multiple times. But I do think with Pulmonary, you want to go out putting South Carolina baseball in a good spot whenever that going out might be. And last year was awful. And you want to turn that around as soon as possible. And there's a lot of eyeballs on the program here locally, and people expect the baseball team to be good. So, yeah, there is a pressure even for a Hall of Fame coach like Pulmonary. But that being said, with all that, you also don't want to, give up on a guy too quick. So we'll see how that plays out with Sutter. But Eric Parker at third. Patrick Evans will play second today. Again, the lineup. Bach, Scobie, Moore in the first three spots. Center field, shortstop, DH. LeCroy, Lozama, Jameson. Catcher, left field, right field. That's the 4 to 6 spots. Bottom of the order, Evans, Craddock, Parker. Second base, first base, third base. Bradley Hodges takes the ball for South Carolina in the midweek pitching spot. So there's your lineup for the game. Again, 3:45 pregame, 4 o'clock first pitch. South Carolina and Gardner-Webb. All right, really quick last night. I mean, like we said, KJ Scobie with a home run last night. Talmadge LeCroy also went yard last night in the victory. In that game as well, Connor Ciccoli took the ball, went 5 solid innings in his first start. Again, pitched last year at Georgia Tech, had I think 5 starts at Tech last year. So Ciccoli, 5 innings, 5 hits, only 1 earned run, did strike out 4. So again, nice start for Connor Ciccoli. Especially first start of the year. It was a nice midweek performance. And Talmadge LeCroy in the game had 2 hits. KJ Scobie with 4 hits and 5 trips, including that home run. Knocked in 3. Also, Aaron Jameson with scored a couple of runs, had a knock, and walked. And so far this year, against a small sample size, KJ Scobie hitting .444, slugging .833, with an on-base of .474. Talmadge LeCroy, slash line of .333 and .600 and .412. Tyler Bach, .313, on-base .421. Can't forget Reese Moore, .364 batting average, .727 slug, and .364 on base. So you got some guys with good starts so far through the season. And we talked about Logan Sutter, 0 for 6 so far this year. Patrick Evans only at 143. Again, it's early. Long way to go. Long way to go in the season. But that's some numbers there. The pitching has been in a nice spot. The pitching, you have to be happy with what you've seen off the mound for South Carolina against early in the year. Team ERA is around 3. Connor Ciccoli in 2 appearances, 1.50 ERA. Josh Gunther has pitched well. Alex Valentin. Riley Goodman gave up some base runners, but worked around it without giving up a run. Am Phillips had a couple of rocky spots in his first start. Patrick Merlot, who has been good in his time in South Carolina, struggled in his appearance, and Connor Parks also did too. So that's just early season stuff. I mean, the good news is, you've seen some good, some solid starting pitching. Gunther, a couple of appearances, 4 2/3 innings, has given up a couple of runs. You're hoping he's a guy that can be a high leverage / back end of the bullpen guy for you. So that's where it's at. Very few games into the season. South Carolina sitting at 3-1. Again, Gardner-Webb today, 3:45 pregame. 4 o'clock first pitch here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. All right, the men wasn't pretty at Gainesville. It's better than the game here. But South Carolina is still on the losing end against Florida. Again, not as ugly as that loss here at CLA, but still 76-62, down by 10 at the half. Hung in there. Second half, it was 37-33. Yeah, that's where we're at. I'm sitting here going, well, the second half, only we're outscored by 4 in the second half because that's supposed to be a victory. It's not. It's not. Did you do a good amount of things better than the first game against Florida? Sure. You still lost by double digits. You shot under 40% from the floor. You shot 21% from 3. You even shot below your average at the line with only 70%. So, no, it was not good. Not good at all. and South Carolina loses again. Michie Johnson, this has been kind of like, this is almost like Groundhog Day. Johnson was really the only Gamecock who was continuously aggressive, looking to make plays, and Michie only shot 6 of 16, 1 of 3 from 3. Again, like Michie in this run that he's been on, 9 of 9 from the line. Michie did have 4 turnovers, only a couple of assists, but still Michie Johnson has become far and away the top offensive player on this team. He's not getting any help. Elijah Strong scored 10. But Elijah Strong is, I mean, you want to talk about multiple personality disorder. Like the dude from Split. That's Elijah Strong. One game, you're like, wow, man, look at him. He's productive. He's making some plays. And the next game, you're like, wow, that's not productive. He's not making any plays at all. It's been like that with this team. Whether it's Sharmajance, it's Strong, Knox. You know, there are games where they contribute, and then there's games they disappear. So, once again, Michie was the guy. Here are the top 3 options on offense, I feel like, for South Carolina. Michie Johnson, Michie Johnson, Michie Johnson. That's the way it's been. And, again, as this team, they aren't limping to the end. They're crawling to the end. 5 games left in the season for South Carolina men's basketball. Right now, this team has lost 7 straight and 10 of 11. Their only W was at home against an Oklahoma team who has only 3 conference wins. That's it. Besides that, a lot of losses. And since that, you go back, since the conference slate started, you've got a win over LSU and a win over Oklahoma. That's it. You're sitting at 2-11 in the league. And the games that you have left, Mississippi State at home, Kentucky at home, Georgia on the road, Tennessee at home, Ole Miss on the road. 3 of your last 5 are at home. If this team was good or on the bubble or contending, you go, that's all right. You got 2 very tough teams, but they're both at home. And you got 3 of your last 5 at home. And the road, I mean, Georgia, they're bubbling as an NCAA tournament team, and Ole Miss is not good at all. So if this team was solid, at least solid, you'd say, wow, that end of your schedule has possibly 2-3 wins on it. Well, it doesn't. The way this team has been trending, the best chance for a W is coming up this weekend against Mississippi State at CLA. 12:30 pregame, 1 o'clock tip here on the game in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach. So that's really what you're looking at. Kentucky here at CLA, Wildcats should win. At Georgia, can you hang around in that one? Sure, but Georgia should win. Tennessee here, Tennessee should win. At Ole Miss is another one you might be able to get. Ole Miss is not good. Mississippi State, who's not good, went to Ole Miss and smacked the taste out of their mouth. So conceivably, the 2 Mississippi schools, you'll have a shot. But since the Ole Miss game is in Oxford, the best shot is Mississippi State here this coming up weekend. Let's talk about this scenario moving forward in the next break with the men's basketball team as the season ends. We're going to play the what-if game. What if? We're going to do some what-ifs. Let's do that next here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out. We are rolling this baby up until 3:45. Then Carolina baseball here on the Game Network, and at the Game TV radio on YouTube. Yeah, and rough night in Gainesville for the South Carolina men's basketball team. Here's Lamont Paris talking about how South Carolina competed better in Game 2 versus Florida in Gainesville than they did in Game 1 here at CLA.
Yeah, there's no competition or comparing this one versus that one. Although early in the first game, I watched it again today, and through 13 minutes of play, they had 20 points. So we were on. In fact, that's why we started the game with some of the same principles that we had in that game, because you have a game like that, you want to change it all.
Yeah.
You want to change it all. And, at the end of the day, our core bread and butter of what we were doing defensively was conceptually good, but we competed all the way through. I felt really good about that. I hate to use the word happy, but I felt really good about that. And there's some guys on our team that continue to grow. Honestly, some of these guys are just continuing to grow. Colby, I feel very comfortable with what he's going to do when he's on the floor, which is always a great feeling. And some other guys too, but he's one specifically that's been doing that.
And Lamont Paris talking about Kobe Knox, obviously. Look, I don't have to tell you. You see it, you watch it, you read about it, you hear about us talking about it. You lose by double digits. There's nothing to be happy about. You can say, okay, this player was better here, or this was here, this situation, da. But when it's all said and done, first of all, a loss, but a double-digit loss. And right now you're looking at 1, 2. You've lost pretty much in this losing streak. You lost to A&M by over 20. You lost to Florida, obviously, by over 20. You lost to LSU by 5 in overtime. Texas beat you by 9. Missouri beat you by 9. Alabama got you by double digits, 14. And Florida got you by double digits. Only one of these games you've lost by less than 9 points. That was the LSU game in overtime. And again, look, I'm not trying to be glass half empty guy. I'm trying to be realistic guy. These games, except the LSU game where you did have an opportunity to win, you just haven't had a shot to win these basketball games. You really haven't been in them. Yeah, you've cut a lead down under double digits here and there, whatever, but you aren't really threatening to win these basketball games. You're not close, and your talent just isn't good enough. When you look at your team, South Carolina, if you're Lamont Paris, you look at the other team's just better on paper. It's are. So the rest of the year, right now you sit on a 7-game losing streak. It'd be great if you could maybe pluck a couple of these like Mississippi State and Ole Miss on the road or whatever and finish up 2-3, and then you at least got four conference wins. But I guess my point is here, and we've said this through the last week or two, the state of men's basketball is a bigger thing than Lamont Paris. It's investing in the program, giving that program resources like the other teams in the SEC have. And I'm not talking about like Kentucky where they're spending $20 billion on basketball. The equipment guy's making $1 million. I'm just making that up. If he was, I don't know about you, I'd put him for the job. But it's just the idea that Kentucky spends a ton of money on basketball, so move them to the side. Just get this program for a roster, $10 million, like almost all the SEC is doing. You've got to give these folks the resources to win. Again, it's like trying to win. It's like trying to win Darlington on a moped. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being realistic. So I guess my point, even if you win, if you beat Mississippi State and that's the only game you win the rest of the year, that still means you've lost 11 of your last 12. Let's go to the SEC tournament, you lose 12 out of your last 13. What does that mean? Look, I love Lamont Paris. He's a really good guy. And what he did a couple years ago getting to the NCAA tournament was a phenomenal season. Besides that season, though, every season has been horrific. Now, we've talked about the scenarios, obviously. Scenario one is this. You let Lamont go. You let his assistants go. It's going to cost you $13-14 million. You have to bring in a new staff. Could cost you roughly around the same. Ish. Let's just say, okay, let's say 6, let's say 10. So it cost you, let's say 13 to get rid of this staff, 10 to bring in a new staff. And then you're going to up your commitment to $10 million a year. That's about $33 million you're going to spend. If you commit $10 million to the roster, again, spend about $13 million to let this staff go their separate ways and then add a new staff. It's about $33 million. It's a lot of money in the rev share world. Or do you keep Lamont and give him the resources, which would be about another $4 or $5 million if you believe what you read. So what's economically more feasible? Plan B. Keep Lamont and say we're going to give you $10 million to build a roster. Now this is your make or break year. So if you're Jeremiah Donati, though, and you go in front of a microphone and say that at a press conference, you say, we're going to give Lamont truly the money that other SEC schools get to build a roster, and we're going to give him every tool in the toolkit to go be successful next year, and then we'll evaluate moving forward. Okay, you have done the prudent financial thing and maybe even a logical thing in some ways. But sell that one to your fan base. I'm just saying. Not that you make decisions based on your fans. You don't. The old saying is if you make decisions based on the fans, eventually you're going to be sitting with them because you're going to get fired. Point being is trying to sell a fan base on bringing back a guy that lost 12 of his last 13 games and 3 of his 4 seasons have been bad. It's a tough sell. Unless you truly believe in Lamont and you have the conviction of, okay, we're going to give you, I'm just making a number, $10 million to build a roster next year. No, go build it, win us some games. And it could work. And then you save a ton of money and all these other things to get rid of him. But again, that's a very tough sell to a lot of folks, not just the fan base, to be fair, to a lot of people. You also have a job that fellow SEC coaches voted the worst job in the conference. Think about that for a minute. Other coaches see these surveys. They go, ooh, don't know if I ever want to go there unless I really need a gig. Yeah, and that's what you're thinking if you see this is, according to other coaches, the worst job in the conference. Be real. So, I guess to me, if you're going to pay that money and get rid of Lamont Paris, you have to not only make sure you're going to give the next coach the money and resources to succeed and get the assistance he needs and things of that nature. You have to convince someone to come here and that it's not the worst job in the conference. So I'm Jeremiah Donati. I'm getting up. If I do end up going down that path and going to get a new head basketball coach, I'm basically going to get up and say, hey, first of all, I want to tell you one thing. I want to say this out loud. I want to apologize to Lamont Paris. That we did not give him the resources that he deserved to truly build this basketball team and program. But because of where we're at, we feel like we need to move forward in another direction. But again, Lamont, we are very sorry. And then you say this. Starting today, we are building a new men's basketball program. The next head coach, whoever it will be, will get all the resources and financial backing that other SEC schools get to build a successful, consistently contending program. Because not only if you're going to go that route, I'm not saying you are or you should, I'm saying if you go that route, you've got to let everybody in the coaching industry know that the days of this job being perceived as the worst in the conference are over. And you're going to do everything you can to make this a hell of a lot better job than people think it is, if you do go that route. Because you want to go get someone who is going to truly take you to another level consistently. And you're not going to get them if they think this job is the worst one in the conference. So you got a lot of PR to do as well. And you got to back it with money and things of that nature. Or, like I said, you give Lamont the resources and say, one more year, man, we're going to give you the money, make or break, go do it. We're going to give you everything you want or everything you need. So we'll see. I will come back, give you the lineups for today's game as South Carolina is hosting Gardner-Webb, 3:45 pregame, 4 o'clock first pitch right here on the Game in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. All right, so we got baseball coming up at 3:45 here on The Game in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach, taking on Gardner-Webb. Line up really quick. Let's get to that for you one more time. Tyler Bach leading off in center field. KJ Scobie in the 2-hole at shortstop, coming off a 4-hit game yesterday in the win over Wofford, including a home run. Reese Moore will be the DH in the 3-hole. Batting cleanup, Talmadge Lecroy, also a home run yesterday in the win over Wofford. Lecroy again doing the catching. Ethan Lozama in left field, batting 5th. The 6-hole hitter is Aaron Jamison in right field. Patrick Evans manning second base, hitting 7th. Batting 8th, Will Craddock, first baseman, and Eric Parker at third base, hitting 9th. Bradley Hodges will start for South Carolina. So that is the lineup for South Carolina for today. Paul Mainieri talking to the media yesterday. Energy was a big topic of conversation in that Saturday loss to Northern Kentucky. Here's Coach Mainieri talking more about the whole energy situation.
Well, I told them, we're going to enjoy this drive home, and then we're going to turn the page. I'm not making excuses for them anymore. It's not going to be because they're tired. We need to go out tomorrow night and play with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I was just really, I was disappointed. We had such a nice crowd at the game Saturday, and they were just waiting to have fun and explode, and we just never gave them a reason to. And I never used the word embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed because, it just happens sometimes. But we got to get some adrenaline and realize that each day is a new day. And we didn't turn the page quickly enough from last Friday night to Saturday. And I'm pretty confident that tomorrow will be different.
All right, there's Coach talking about the energy and saying basically, I'm not making excuses for you anymore. You got to get some energy. We got to go. It's a long season. You got to get yourself ready to play. You got to find your energy and your motivation. And I agree 100%. Look, not to be mean, man, but, you shouldn't be tired in Game 3 of the season. And again, at that age, you should be able to roll in 18 innings of baseball. You just should. But, again, Coach kind of talked about their lack of energy, and we all went, probably not a good idea to say that out loud, Coach, even though you're being honest. Sometimes honesty not the best policy. And then, of course, after the game yesterday, the win over Wofford, you hear Coach Mainieri saying, okay, we're turning the page, moving forward, and this lack of energy thing will never be used ever again as an excuse in any way, shape, or form, which it shouldn't be. Not this early in the season. Sorry. But you got to kind of be careful what you say these days, right? You just do. I want to lean into something real quick we didn't get to yesterday, and that's Jerome Tang losing his job at Kansas State. And then the athletic director, Glenn Taylor, and the administration, the president of the school, both basically using, and the president's Richard Linton, using a clause in Tang's contract about embarrassing or putting the university in a bad light. You can be fired with cause, which means you don't get your buyout. Now, I think that's a hot load of garbage. If you haven't heard what Jerome Tang said, I'm going to play you a little snippet of it, and then we'll have a little conversation before we get out of here for baseball.
This was embarrassing. These dudes do not deserve to wear this uniform. There will be very few of them in it next year. I'm embarrassed for the university. I'm embarrassed for our fans, our student section. It is just ridiculous. We got practice at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we will get this thing right. I have no answer, no words. So y'all got two questions. So whoever want to ask two questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability right now. But right now, I'm pissed.
And look, I don't think anything Jerome Tang said was terrible, bad, embarrassing to the university. The way his team's playing is embarrassing to the university. He's right. They're awful. We'll get to that in a second. So Tang is being let go, and again, Kansas State is trying to not pay the buyout, that's all this is. Okay, you can see this. Richard Linton, the president of the university, and the AD Gene Taylor. They've got maybe a little blowback from Tang's comments because you get blowback on everything anymore because everybody can comment on everything. And if the players didn't like it, well, I got an idea. Play better. Play better. Then you won't get criticized like that. And obviously, when you're bad, and we'll get to that in a minute, and your coach has tried every way possible to make you better, and it's not working, he's frustrated. And so he's going to now finally say something out loud in front of the whole world in front of a microphone. Now, should he do that? No. I'm big on you want to criticize your crew, you do it with the doors shut in private. Maybe Tang's done that a ton and nothing's worked, so now he's finally playing the last card, which is say it in front of the media and the world. I don't know. But anyway, so Jerome Tang has retained Tom Mars and Bennett Spire as his attorneys in this case against Kansas State. Quote from Mars, one of the attorneys. If K-State President Richard Linton and AD Gene Taylor really think the school was embarrassed by recent events, that's nothing compared to the embarrassment that both of them are about to experience. Bam. You think, quote unquote, Jerome Tang embarrassed the university with those comments? Wait till we get through with you in the courtroom. And just how bad we're going to embarrass you. Look, man, you want to be real, be honest, simple. Jerome Tang is guilty of one thing. His team is terrible. Here's why Jerome Tang was let go. 2-11. Kansas State's 2-11 in the league, 11-15 overall. And Tang, after making the Elite Eight his first season and just missing the Final Four, his teams have not made the NCAA tournament. If Jerome Tang was coming off a trip to the Final Four and said this, he'd be applauded by the Kansas State folks. Way to go, Jerome. Way to hold him accountable. Way to go, Jerome. That's it. But because Tang has not reached the Final Four, the team hasn't been to the dance in the last couple of years, they want to fire him, which, I mean, I get it. I don't disagree with that. But now they're like, okay, how can we fire him with cause? Oh, I know. He embarrassed us. No, Jerome Tang is just getting fired because the team stinks, but Kansas State is trying to find a way to not pay the buyout, which to me is just scumbaggy of all scumbagginess. If you have a legit reason, that's one thing, but this is stupid. Just stupid. All right, coming up next, we got baseball here on the game. South Carolina and Gardner-Webb here in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach. Thanks for hanging out with us for our big 40-minute show. Baseball next here on the game.